At the end of the previous lesson, I'd given you this situation which said that an atom has 20 protons and 20 neutrons in the nucleus and 20 electrons surrounding them. How will we arrange these electrons in orbitals? We also know the maximum number of electrons each shell can have. Now let's begin with the first shell. How many electrons can the first shell have? It can have a maximum of 2 electrons. So 2 electrons will be in the first shell. Now we have 18 electrons remaining. Now the second shell can accommodate 8 electrons. We know this. So 2 in the first orbit and 8 in the second. 10 electrons remain. We know that the third shell can accommodate a maximum of 18 electrons. So does this mean the remaining 10 electrons can be put into the third shell? No, we cannot do this. Instead, we add 8 electrons to the third shell and remaining 2 to the last shell. That is the fourth shell in this case. But why? If the third orbital can accommodate 18 electrons, then why can't we have all 10 electrons in it? That gets us to the first rule. The rule says that the maximum number of electrons in the outermost orbit can be 8. So what happened here? If we allot all the 10 electrons to the third orbit, then there will be no fourth orbit. And this would mean that the third orbit would be the outermost one. And if that's the case, then the presence of 10 electrons in it would contradict the rule. Remember, only 8 electrons at the most can be present in the outermost shell. So what do we do now? We distribute 8 electrons to the third and the remaining 2 to the fourth shell. Now the outermost shell has only 2 electrons and the rule is not contradicted. But wait, why can't it be 2, 8, 6, 4? Here as well, the outermost orbit has 4 electrons, which is less than 8. Why do we have 8 in the third orbit? Keep this point in mind. We will cover this concept in another video. So it's 2, 8, 8, 2. That's how the electrons are distributed in different orbits. Is there any other rule we need to know of? Another important rule says that the electrons are not filled in the next shell unless we fill the inner shells. That means filling up of electrons occurs in a stepwise manner. That also means in this example, we will first fill 2 electrons in the innermost shell, followed by 8 in the next shell. Only then will we proceed with the third shell to fill it with 8 electrons. And lastly, we fill 2 electrons in the outermost shell. And this atom with 20 protons and 20 neutrons in the nucleus and 20 electrons around it is nothing but a calcium atom. Well, now that we know how an atom looks like, let's move ahead and talk about a few more important concepts related to atoms. See you in the next video.